And today we're going to put together a Raspberry Pi SPROG DCC system. So I guess like every cooking show, you need to go through the ingredients. So the first thing we got is a Raspberry Pi Model B, which is both wireless and Bluetooth. We need some heat sinks. These are little copper heat sinks. We've got a fan to give us some cooling. Most importantly, we need the SD card with the image already burnt onto the SD card to run JMRI and the Raspberry Pi software. We need the SPROG DCC board. So this is the board that plugs into the Raspberry Pi that gives you the DCC system. And we need some PCB mounts so we can mount the boards together. And then lastly, we've got an acrylic case here which we're going to mount the whole lot in. So I guess now we've gone through all the ingredients on their own. I should hit focus again, make the camera focus. Now we've got all the ingredients there, I guess we can start unboxing the Pi and putting it together. So there's our Raspberry Pi. It's a bit like it comes in a flash little box. It's got a bit of a blurb on the back, tells you it's a Raspberry Pi 3 Model B with 1 GB of RAM. So we'll open her up. And hey presto, the Raspberry Pi comes in a little bag inside the box. They've gone over the top of the packaging, I think, on these devices. So you open up the little bag, and inside hopefully is going to be a Raspberry Pi circuit board. I've had enough of the packaging. And there we go. There's our Raspberry Pi. Doesn't look like the cover, does it? Oh, here we go. I dropped the Raspberry Pi. Notice how it landed the right way up though. Anyway, enough of the humour. Let's see if we can focus a bit more. So what have we got? We've got our camera port, we've got a touchscreen port, we've got our audio socket outlet, HDMI, that's our power connector there. On the other side we've got the SD card holder, of course the GPIO ports. And then on this end we've got 4 USBs and 1 Ethernet connection. So we could hook this up with an Ethernet if we wanted to. So, okay, there's our Raspberry Pi. That's what it looks like. We'll get the SPROG board next and put that together. Now we've got our Pi out of the box. It sounds a bit funny, doesn't it? Well, it sounds a bit more like a cooking show. So we've got our Raspberry Pi, we've got our SPROG DCC board here, which we need to attach to the Pi. But before we do that, these two processors here need a bit of cooling. So we've got a couple of heat sinks here that we're going to attach to these two. Quite simple. Peel off the adhesive backing tape and position it on the chip, and there you go. There's one heat sink applied, and there's a second heat sink. Okay, this will run nice and cool now with those two attached. Now you do have another heat sink which is a flat plate which goes on this guy here. But I find it easier to put that on once you've built the acrylic case, because I've put these on a couple of times and then had to peel them off because they actually protrude into the acrylic case a little bit. Anyway, we'll show you that later on. So, there's our Raspberry Pi. 2 heat sinks this side are fitted. Now we can fit the board. Now to do that, we've got these little PCB plastic standoffs. So we're going to put a couple in this side first, because this is where it gets a little tricky sometimes. So we'll put them in there like that. Then we're going to take this board and see the header there. I'll turn it around for the camera. Just line the pins up and push it down. Don't push it all the way, because we need to get these screws in first. So, a bit of fiddling. Oh, I thought that had gone in then. Don't forget the screwdriver. And they are Phillips head screws. They're only 3mm nylon, so you don't need to over tighten them, otherwise you'll strip the thread quite easily. We go around to the other side and we get another screw. Put in there. Then round this side, and we've got another couple of standoffs. So before we tighten everything up, we'll push those in there. And that one in there, like that. And we've got a couple more screws that we can, guess what, put in here. Oh, come back. Those, and finally our last screw on the standoff. Okay. Oh, now you notice what's happened. Line, now we've got the screws in there. We can tighten these up. And now when we put them in, they should line up with the holes in the bottom PC board. It's not tightened up that much. So a bit more, there we go. They line up with those, which then lines the header up. And if you hold your teeth right, you can push the header together like that. Now they're all in. So there you go. Whoop, let it focus. There's your SPROG board fitted to the Raspberry Pi. See, that wasn't hard, was it? Now, the next bit is to assemble the case. So we'll get the case out. Okay, here's the case. Take it out of its little plastic bag. There you go. Now, it comes with some metal screws, which you're not going to need. So we'll throw those to one side. And here are the parts that you will need. Now, you need to know how the orientation of this case goes. So we'll bring our board back. Okay, here's the lid. Now, the GPIO pins have to protrude through there. So the lid is going to go on that way. It's going to flip up that way. the other piece you need to get is the end piece for here, and that's going to sit on that way. Now what we need to do is discard the other parts, remove this header. We need to mark out a square on there for where this header is going to protrude through the case. So to do that, we're going to have to put on the sides. So here's the side with the ports on it. So we can put that on there like that. And if you notice, it fits snugly around the ports. Now if we get the other side here, you'll find it'll fit snugly on there. But we're going to need to have the base in place. So now we get the base. Now the base has to be put so that square is exposing that chip, and you have the SD card exposed. So that's how the case orientation goes. Now it'll actually push through those stands. So we can start semi-assembling this so that we can mark out our cutouts. So we'll put that on. We'll put the second side here on. Whoop, sounding a bit like Arkwright from Open All Hours then. Sick. Anyway, this one goes on here, like so. Now we can put this one on and mark where we're going to have to cut out. So, using a Sharpie pen, just put a little dot about there, and a little dot about there. And that's where I'm going to drill the hole, and then I'll line that up with a ruler later on. So we've got that bit done. Now we need to do the lid. The lid has the same thing, see? It's actually going to poke through that hole and that hole when it's round the right way. But we need to mark out the cutout for the header again. So we can still do it this way. And all we do now is mark a dot there. Okay. Now we can put that to one side, and we've got to make this cutout. So I'll go away and make the cutout, and then I'll come back and we'll put it all together. Well, we're back now after we've cut our sections out here and here, and we've lined them all up and they all fit. So if we give it a trial again, this bit goes in here like so, this bit goes on that end like so. Now our cutout goes on like so, and the header is pointing out, and the cover over here goes on and it's cut it. And the header's pointing out neatly. So the next thing to do now is to take the protective wrapping off and fit the fan, and then click it all together, put the SD card in, and it's ready to go. So we're nearly there. Now, as I said, these cases, they've got a protective cover on them. So if you peel it back a bit there, that's why I wasn't too particular about where I marked with the marker, because that's all going to come off. So there's the first bit. And if we get this bit over here, and just get it started on this edge. Go. Started there. Pull it back. You see our texture marks all come off. We've got a nice clear end. Just clean that up with a file and a burnishing brush. Make it all nice and neat. And on we go. So I'll peel the rest of the case off and then we'll come back and put it all together. Now we're going to fit our fan. So we've got our Pi board here. This is the way our plastic case fits over the top. So we'll put the fan here with the wires coming out the side so we can plug it straight into the header. So it's a simple matter of, again, working with the screws. But this time we're going to put the screws in upside down, because the profile of the head is too much on top of the board. There's not enough space in there. So by putting them upside down, we can cure that. And plus I think it makes it look a little bit more engineery with the exposed fan. Some people disagree, but there you go. It's all a matter of personal preference. You could try and find a bigger case. I've had a look around on the old Evil Bay, and I haven't really found much. And these cases came with these Pis as a package, so it's not too bad. So there we go. In go the screws. So now we're just about at the final hurdle. All we're going to do is just nip these screws up a little with the screwdriver. They don't have to be finger tight. As I said, they're nylon screws, so if you get a little overzealous, you'll break them fairly easily. So there's our fan installed. Now we're just going to put the box together. So the first thing you need to do is get the base, and as we said, you're going to make sure that it lines up with that chip. Don't have it that way around, otherwise that poor little guy's going to cook, and it'll actually get hot enough to damage the case. So it goes around that way, and our little PCB mounts actually protrude through the plastic, which give us a good locating source. There we go. That's clicked in there. As you can see, our heat sink can now be applied there, and it'll be nice and square. That's why I said to leave that last heat sink till we finish. So the next bit now is this side, so we can line up the ports with the HDMI port and the audio socket. And if we just jiggle them around a little bit, there we go. That's locked in place now. It's nice and square. We take the other side, making sure we got the locating hole at the right side here. So that's going to go on there. We'll put our port back in. Right. Now, next one is our lid. So that clips in there like so. Now, what holds it all together are the ends. So this is the big test. We put this end on, we'll put it around the right way, fits straight on there, and if we push these clips in, that one's clipped in, that one's clipped in. That's done that side. Now this side, I don't know if you notice this part of the case has got the opening for the Ethernet and the USBs. So again, that clips on the top like that, and then just by pushing in the sides, They clips together, and there you have it. There's your Raspberry Pi. The last thing is to connect the fan. So we go one pin in on the first row, and positive, negative, like that. So we can tuck this cable, the remainder of this cable, down the side here. There's usually enough room there to hide it. And there you go. There's your completed Raspberry Pi. Last thing we need to do, SD card. Take out our SD card, which has been pre-formatted, and we insert it in the SD card holder. And that one's completed. So next thing we'll do is put some rubber feet on the bottom of it. So turning it over, put some rubber feet here, rubber feet here, one over here, one over there. We'll give them a push together. Now it'll sit nice and nice like this little rubber feet. The last thing we've got to do is put this heatsink on. So again, double-sided tape. So take that off, and all we do is line it up through the opening, drop it down, and push it on. And there's your Raspberry Pi with DCC already on there, JMRI ready to run. If you actually want to see the Raspberry in desktop, you can plug in a monitor here, put a USB mouse and keyboard in, and you can use it as a normal computer, and you can do your programming, use Decoder Pro, set all your decoders up, write panels in Panel Pro. It's a fully functioning computer. So the next thing we'll do is actually power it up and run some trains.